Hey guys, Agent of Doubt here. It's been a while. Again, I spent the last week being very busy. I'm just taking a break from what I normally do in my week, which is now work and study nonstop. But I've gotten a lot of suggestions from other people about very timely, newsworthy things that I should be commenting on with videos. I guess people just want me to make videos. And so I just want you to know that, like, some of these suggestions, yeah, they're in the news, but it's like, I haven't had time to research them. I don't really have an opinion on them beyond what my knee-jerk reaction would be. So here's one from the Phantom Lion. He wants me to look at this article about Brunei, little tiny 500,000 people country in the Pacific. I think it's near Indonesia. I could not even find Brunei really on a map, other than to look at that string of islands and go, it's somewhere in there. And apparently they've got Sharia law now. And they're going to start stoning gay people. Great. Also, Phantom Lion's been finding a lot of pedophiles on Twitter with some weird new acronyms and lingo. Good on him. Don't have the time to fight that fight. So, that's that. I can retweet something really quick, or send out maybe one little tweet to join the fight. But really, these online flame wars, even if they are very righteous in that they're going after pedophiles, I really don't have time for it. So a couple of the other comments that I've got from people, I feel more likely to comment on because they're right up my alley. This came from my last video on cannabis. This is from Mr. Pluto the Dog, and he wants to know, have you bothered to look into Shanny for Christ's video advocacy and use of cannabis? No, I haven't. In fact, Shanny makes many, many videos every day, and I feel like if you're going to be a Shanny viewer, you're going to have to be one of those people who does not go to school and work full-time like I do. I cannot keep up with the Shanny. There's lots of Shanny being put out onto the internet every day. Can't keep up with that drama, sorry. Mr. Pluto goes on to say, she uses heavily and claims benefit for borderline personality disorder and fibromyalgia symptoms. It doesn't appear to be helping her at all. It's apparently the opposite for her kids, and her clinically wet-brained husband. I don't know if that's an insult or actually true. Just saying, these are his comments. Both psychologically and physically. I wondered because she was planning to attend a get-together of YouTubers you planned a few months ago. That's correct. And was among the many no-shows. Also correct. I gather you've known her to some degree for some time, at least peripherally. Yes. The woman needs heavy psychological and medical help, gross obesity issues, and has apparently married into sufficient money to be able to afford it, but does not avail herself. Instead, she veges out daily and plays videos, stays loaded on various forms of cannabis. Care to comment? First of all, my first comment, as far as it treating symptoms of things, it's just a band-aid for a lot of the symptoms of many different things that people find that once they remove that band-aid, should they run out of their weed, that they find that themselves in that withdrawal, the next day, to have even worse symptoms. And, there's all sorts of studies that have actually been done showing that it can bring on the onset of schizophrenia in people. Um, and also, it's very bad for children as far as the younger you use, the more likely you are to have psychological problems later, right? But many, many people swear by it, calming them down and soothing their symptoms for many different maladies. And, you know, you're not going to be able to really convince people who are as convinced as she is. From what I've seen on her channel, you're not going to be able to convince them that pot's bad for them. It's just not going to work. I would not want to be in the position of trying to help her when she doesn't want help. And as far as fibromyalgia, that's one of those things that I really would love to do a deep dive on, as far as studying what it actually is, because it seems to be one of those diagnoses that doctors come up with that is like the last resort diagnosis. There are many, many people, especially in my state of Colorado, that have a diagnosis of fibromyalgia who I feel were just abandoned by their doctor into that diagnosis. And I don't know that their diagnosis is real or not, but before the legalization of recreational marijuana, many people got diagnoses of fibromyalgia in order to get a red card so that they could use medical marijuana in the 10 years prior when we only had medical marijuana available in Colorado. So there's a lot of these diagnoses going around that I'm like, could it be something else? I don't know. But having seen a lot of information on just the subject of fibromyalgia, I'd like it to be studied even further. And I'd like to read what comes of that, because I don't know that it's more than just a categorization of patients that doctors can't find anything else that they can diagnose them with, you know. Yes, she did skip out on my YouTuber meetup. I used to run the Colorado YouTube Club on meetup.com. I don't run it anymore. Somebody else is running it. Somebody else picked up that ball, and he actually has had like at least 2 meetups so far, both of which were during the hours that I work. So, was not able to go, but maybe she'll go to the new guys stuff, you know. I understand that cannabis isn't exactly at the levels that she's using it. It's not going to motivate someone to leave the couch. So, yeah. I don't know anything about her husband being wet-brained, but I haven't seen any evidence for it in the videos that I've seen. That's a very specific thing that I would be very cued into if I did see it, but maybe leave a link in the description and tell me a timestamp of some video where you've seen something that I didn't, and I'll comment on it. But yeah. Also on that video, in the comments, was something from No Ma'am, who, this is actually the reason why I decided to turn on the camera today. This is the inspiration. No Ma'am writes, "Are you able to separate addiction from physical dependence? There is a baseline addiction rate that applies to just about anything. For example, people can get addicted to gambling, TV, video games, or porn. It will seem more dire in the case of drugs due to their typical illegality. If someone were court mandated to not watch porn for 6 months and then he did, you might make a video lamenting that his addiction was so severe that he couldn't lay off the porn for even 6 months. I'm assuming there's something beyond the baseline rate into the realm of physical dependence, but it wouldn't seem more useful to quantify the amount. Oh, sorry. It would seem more useful to quantify the amount. So, yeah, I can separate the idea of addiction from physical dependence. In fact, in order to fit the criteria for certain levels of addiction, mild, moderate, or severe, you could get all the way down to severe and not have any physical withdrawal symptoms so long as you met the criteria for a whole bunch of the other things that could be going on in your life. So you don't even have to have a tolerance built up to the drug or withdrawal or psychological symptoms to become severely addicted to something, as far as the criteria in the DSM. I have seen it quite often. I would say not so much with alcohol, because there's usually a tolerance and withdrawal symptoms involved when someone presents with a problem with alcohol and seeks help or ends up receiving help because of other means of getting there. But there are a lot of people, I'd say 10% of the people that I see that would respond by saying, no, I don't have withdrawal symptoms. I don't think that a portion of those people really consider all of the different things that could be considered withdrawal, because anxiety, for instance, restlessness, depression, those sort of things are also withdrawal symptoms, but and those things can come from not being able to see porn, not being able to gamble, not being able to play your video games, not being able to have your cell phone on you while you're in a treatment program. I've seen cell phone addiction, and it can be something that somebody gets kicked out of a treatment program for, because they just cannot be disconnected from the world without wanting to reconnect themselves. They cannot handle that anxiety. And I might actually be one of them. You know, I think I could work through the motions and separate myself from my phone for a period of time. And if I had to, I could, but do I turn my car around and go pick up my cell phone from my house if I realize I've made it down to the end of the street on my way to work and I don't have my cell phone on me? Yes, I do. I turn that car around and go get my cell phone. Now, if I make it all the way to work and I check my pockets and my cell phone is not on me, I think that's happened maybe 3 times in the last 2 years. And what I do is I send an email from work to my girlfriend's phone or her email account saying, hey, I forgot my phone at home, so I won't be available for the next couple hours, while I'm at work. And then I, proceed to work my shift and then go home to my phone. And I'm probably looking forward to seeing what's on my phone in that half day that I've been gone. But yeah, I do agree that you can separate the concept of addiction from just the physical dependencies that come with withdrawal symptoms and tolerance. So lastly, I guess, there's people who watch my rambles just for getting the tea of certain situations because they're just drama whores. Like me, I think I've earned that distinction. What do you guys think? Anyways, so in thinking about how few videos I've been putting up since I have undertaken going back to school to finish my master's degree, I felt a little guilt about my Patreon donors, some of which might have previously thought that they owed me a large amount of money, and I said, well, you can become a low-level Patreon donor to me, and they're basically paying it off something that I've done for them. But some people that have donated to my Patreon, either the active ones now or people who have intermittently been Patreon donors to me in the past, they have paid for the guy that makes videos all the time, rambles all the time for half an hour at least, and I haven't been there for you guys. Sorry. I've been very busy, but I decided to look down the list of everyone who's ever been a Patreon donor to me, because I had thought it would be funny to post this list at the end of my videos, scrolling in credits, all of the people who have donated to me in the past. You can get that information from Patreon, not just the active people, anyone who's ever done it, because what I find funny is that there are some people who donated to me and then found out that they didn't agree with me totally on some other topic, and then they decided to not donate to me. So, just having their name on my history of donors was funny. So, I was looking down my list of donors, and I noticed that there was a name that was missing since the last time I looked at this. And it's one of the funnier ones, more like the gossipy tea sort of people that you would want in your list if you just wanted it to be hilarious. And that's because it was Brett Keane, somebody who has been on some of my streams before. I've been on some of his streams. You guys might have remembered from way back in the day when he was having a channel under the wing of Happy Cabby's channel that was then impervious to flagging takedowns because of Happy Cabby's protections, that some drama happened between me and Happy Cabby, and it ended up that Brett Keane actually spilled the tea on that one. Check Encyclopedia Dramatica for all that shit. They actually did a really good job at covering that little portion of my life in Happy Cabby's entry. I don't have to say much more about that. But at one point, Brett Keane decided to become a patron of my channel on Patreon, and his name was listed on Patreon as one of the previous donors, right? He was, when I last checked, he was not an active donor. He had just 1 month decided to pledge $1, right? So I look at the list that I just exported from Patreon, right? And it's got some names here, but they're alphabetically. You'd expect to see Brett Keane as the third person down there, right? There's all these other names, and I kind of scrolled off the rest of this Excel spreadsheet so you wouldn't see all their doxing stuff. But yeah, this great list of names are the people who have ever donated to me. On Patreon, anyway. I mean, there's been other ways that people have helped me. I used to run, what was it? Indiegogo stuff and other different fundraisers that are from websites that no longer exist, where people donated a lot of money to me in other endeavors, like me giving supplies to the Occupy movement, like half a decade ago. But I thought, it would be great to just have that scroll up, right? Then I noticed Brett Keen's name was no longer on the list of people who had previously given to me. I was like, well, what the hell's going on with that? That they would remove his name from my history on Patreon, because that seemed a bit weird. So I tried to find Brett Keen's Patreon account and just typed his name into Patreon search, couldn't find it that way. Typed in God TV Radio because he used to go by that, couldn't find it that way. And so then I'm like, wow, he's nowhere on Patreon. And then I went to this subreddit for the Drunken Peasants, right? Him and the Drunken Peasants have had this fight going on for a while, and confirmed that the link should be patreon.com/Brett Keen, right? And I don't know how long this has been going on, but you get this 404 error when you click on it, and Brett Keen is nowhere on Patreon. I don't know why, because I'm not really involved in the drama right now. But because you guys, some of you have subscribed to me for the tea, there it is. Somehow Brett Keen got kicked off Patreon, and I am oblivious to the reason. And now I can't have his name generated in my previous donors list from Patreon, which I thought was funny. There's a lot of characters that I've interacted with here on YouTube, that I just think it's hilarious that some people would just be up in arms about, oh my god, you associate with that person or this person, and I just think it's funny. And now the joke is kind of ruined. For me. Anyway. I also, in going to Patreon, found out that they are going to start having basically programs where you have to pay them for the premium services, and I was like, what the hell are they doing? And apparently, if you already had a Patreon account, it doesn't apply to you. You can still get the same rates you've always been getting. But anyone who creates a new Patreon account after a certain day is going to be hit with, well, do you want a premium account that costs you $3 a month? Do you get so you can get the extra perks? And I'm like, what is going on? It seems like a lot of the gig economy is all about creating market share in the first couple years and then turning on those people that used to get things for free, that they're now accustomed to getting things for free, and they're going to just say, okay, well, just this little subscription won't hurt, just $1 to $5, you won't even miss it. It's the price of a cup of coffee, And more and more I find that the internet is just full of people who want your cup of coffee. They're wanting to nickel and dime you to death because it's a proven business model that people will just forget what they are paying for. They will forget what they are subscribed to, and businesses can prey on that psychological ploy of marketing. You know, and I used to look at the CEO of Patreon, Jack Conte, as well, a much nicer guy than I see him now. You know, it's very obvious to me that from day one he was probably thinking about how to get market share first and then make some tweaks to make some profits in the future. And these changes, it's like, why? They don't have to make these changes, but I'm betting that they're wanting to step up their staff, and they're looking at it like, without making these changes, they won't be able to hire more staff. But what does their staff really do? Maybe they want to do more with it. I don't know. Hopefully, the offerings that people get for their subscriptions will be worth it. But really, it's just. It used to be about the creators and getting the money from the people who enjoyed the art to the artist. And now they're becoming part of that pack of people who want to try to nickel and dime the artist rather than, say, sell ads to the people en masse who maybe some of them have a lot of money. But it used to be about recognizing that the artists have been underpaid for their art and underappreciated for their art, and a lot of them are starving. And to target them, to get the money from them, seems a bit counter to what I felt like Patreon used to be about. Anyways, that's the end of this ramble. I'm going to get back to my studies. If you have any other questions for me, leave them in the comments below. I'll pick out some, and that'll probably be my next video. So long as you're not asking about something that nobody gives a fuck what my opinion is on it. Because my videos do not come from the trending page or the front page of Reddit. For the most part. I'm not chasing views anymore. My career is not YouTuber anymore, really. My career has nothing to do with YouTube. I'm just here for this personal experience that we're having together. Take care, everybody, and chase a dream that's going to make you feel good about the days that you spent on this earth. No regrets.